Find a seat anywhere you like. Welcome to the Longleaf Express. I'm your guide, Christina Hester, and we're going to be venturing today into our 60-acre longleaf pine area. Now, many years ago, the longleaf pine tree covered at least 90 million acres of the southeast United States, but now only about 3 million remain. Now here at Harris Lake County Park, we do manage our longleaf area by prescribed burns and thinning, and we're going to go explore that today. And when you think about 60 acres, you can kind of think about the size of a football field and times that by a little over 2,240 football fields together to make up our 60 acres. Now our longleaf pine tree is part of the family Pineaceae. Can you say Pineaceae? It can be a little difficult, but it's a fun word to say. Pineaceae. And there's a lot of different pine trees that live in that family. And so today, for us to discover our longleafs amongst any other pine tree in North Carolina, I did bring a couple of things to show you and so we can compare. So come on over here as I show you some items I have in my basket. First of all, I have a longleaf pine cone, and how I can tell about longleaf is really by its size. And so I don't really carry around a measuring stick or a ruler, and so I like to use the size of my hand. So anytime I'm measuring, I'm going to put something against my hand to see how big and long it is. And you can see this longleaf pine cone is super long, a lot longer than my hand. Also, I brought a longleaf pine needle. Again, kind of like our pine cone, I'm going to stick it up against my hand and look how extremely long it is. It goes this high above my fingers here. So it's very long. So you can kind of get the gist here. Very long needles, very long cones, and that's how it gets its name, the longleaf. So I think we're about ready to go on our adventure with our clues here and our items. So let's grab our binoculars. Grab a hat or a water bottle if you have it, and we will get on our way. Let's go find the majestic longleaf. These interesting trees here. There's a few of them right here in the area. Now if you look up, you'll see a lot of small little pine cones. You'll see kind of a few trees right here. And check out those needles. So let's see if this is a longleaf pine. I actually earlier took a branch from this tree right here. So you can kind of look at this and look up at it. And I want you to look at the comparison between these small cones to this big cone here. And then look at the small needles to this long needle. Big differences. This is actually from a shortleaf pine. And shortleaves have really small cones and needles that when I like to compare to my hand, let me poke one out here. I'm going to put it up just like I did the longleaf. Look how small it is compared to my hand. It doesn't even reach up to the top of my my fingers here, so very small needles. And the difference too with shortleaf and longleafs is longleaf pine needles have 3 needles to each bundle. Shortleaf typically only have 2 in each bundle. Sometimes you can find 3, but they typically have 2. So big difference. So this is our shortleaf pine in the area. And one thing with your shortleafs, and if you're out walking in the woods, if you look up, shortleafs keep their cones for many years. They literally stay on the tree until they're almost decaying and they drop off to the ground. So when you look up, you'll see just full branches of these small cones, and that gives you a good sign that it's a shortleaf. So we know that's not our longleaf, so we're not in our longleaf area yet. Let's keep heading on in our wagon tour here until we get to our longleaf area. like our driver stopped here at this little grouping of trees. Let's take a look at them and see if it's our longleaf. The needles look a lot longer than our shortleaf, but are they really part of our longleaf tree itself? So I grabbed a little branch here, pretty long needles. Let me take a little bundle here and let's compare with our measurements. So I'm gonna take, oh, look, it has 3 needles. So already we can kind of say it's not a short leaf because it has 3 needles versus 2. Let's compare it to our hand. So I'm gonna lay it on my hand here, and looks like the needles go a little bit above my fingers. But let me grab my longleaf needle again. Up, and look at that comparison. So we have our needles here from this tree bundle here, and the longleaf needles up here. Big difference. So this needle bundle is bigger than our shortleaf, but smaller than our longleaf. This is a loblolly pine, and loblolly pines are probably the most common pine tree you're going to see in the area. So most likely, if you see a tree that looks like this that doesn't have really short and very long needles, then it's most likely a loblolly pine, one of the most common pines. So we're still not there in longleaf area yet. So let's just go a little bit further and see if we can reach the land of the longleaf. Spot here, I am looking through my binoculars, and it looks like these are longleafs. Awesome. Get out your binoculars, take a look yourself. I think we may need to venture in a little bit more really to see if these are longleafs, but by their size and what I'm seeing so far, I would probably estimate these are about 26 years old, or maybe close to 30. I see some of them that have cones on them, and around the age of 30 is when they actually can develop cones. So that gives me a good clue. So if you see some of these trees with cones on them, that gives you about the age of the tree itself. And I don't know if you can see, but way over there I see some older, larger trees. I want to check them out. Let's go a little bit further and let's see if we can find those old, the wagon carefully, and we're going to explore this section over here. So follow me as we exit the wagon and check out some of our longleafs. I just follow closely behind me, and we are going to look at some of the life stages of our longleaf pines. They really have a unique life cycle. And so as we walk through here, just be mindful to look on the ground. There are things that may look like grass, but may not be. You'll spot some higher areas that look like grass over there. And as I show you the first stage of our longleaf, you'll start to pick out other young longleafs in the area. So when you first come here, you might think this is just a clump of grass, but this is actually a young longleaf pine. And so their first stage of life is called the grass stage, where they actually look like tufts of grass. And if you span over, you might be able to pick up a few more that are popping up just off the ground. Now this stage for our longleaf, they really put a lot of energy and time into their taproot. They have an extremely long taproot, and all the minerals and nutrients are in that taproot, and they can stay in this grass stage up to 10 years. Now, if a fire comes through here and it burns through our grass stage here and burns all those needles, all the nutrients and energy are in that taproot. So if everything burns off this tree right now, it's going to shoot up energy and nutrients, and it's going to grow from there. So this is really a good stage for our longleaf when it comes to fire, because they really have designed themselves to be able to deal with the fire, live through it, and grow from it. So as we walk around, I just want you to check out some more that we might see. There's one actually back here that looks really good. Let's head back here and check this out. So this area has been burned a few times, and you can tell that there's been a burn. You'll see the black on it. And so a fire has come through here, has affected this grass stage longleaf right here. But what's really interesting is that you see the new growth coming out. And actually, this guy right here is called a candle. Now, a candle is the new growth of our longleaf. And you see those little white bristles in here? They help to protect that new growth of the tip there. And so if a fire does come through, the needles will burn off, but the moisture in here helps to protect the new growth inside. And so then it can regenerate from that. And you actually can see the little new growth coming in between on our candle here. So once it comes out of this grass stage, it goes into what's called a bottle brush stage. And in the bottle brush stage, it gets really puffy and it has no stems. And so in here, let's see if we can find one. Oh, there's some back here. Follow me. We'll go through the brush here, so just be mindful. This is a true exploration. Oh, beautiful. So look at this. After about 10 years, this is the next stage that our longleaf grows into, and it's called the bottle brush. And it kind of looks like, if you ever wash dishes, it kind of looks like that tool that you use to clean out the bottles. And really neat. So if you look at some of these, they have no branches. There's like one tall stalk here, one tall trunk, and then multiple needles coming out of it. And if you look in the middle here, oh, there's our candle growing. So that's our new growth coming in for our longleaf. So they can stay in this bottle brush stage for a few years. But once it starts to go into our sapling stage, which I'll show you in a minute, you'll see how it's starting to branch out and grow. Now, this stage is probably the most susceptible to fire, meaning if a fire comes through here, it can actually come up and crawl up and really burn all the needles off here. And all the energy from that taproot is really helping this tree to grow quickly and grow the new candle up here. And so if everything comes through here and it's not a hot burn, this tree can survive in this stage. But if it really is something where it burns everything, this is probably the stage that we have to be most careful in protecting our longleaves, because they're more susceptible to damage when there's a fire. So once you go from this stage, our bottle brush, you get into our sapling stage, and it's in this time where you'll start to see some branching happening. So you'll see how a new branch is coming up here, a couple of branches off here. So this is forming into our sapling stage. This one over here is kind of showing you some branches, and of course the needles from the previous years that have died off. Now as we look around, you might find some others. There's a nice little grouping over there of some other saplings that are growing taller and branching out. This is really hard when a fire comes through to actually affect our longleaves, because they are branching, they're growing up. And so as you can see, when the longleaves start to grow, they start to lose some of their dead branching. And so when a fire comes through, it doesn't climb up the tree as it would in a bottle brush stage. So a sapling stage, it can be in there for many years until it gets into a mature stage. And when you look around, that's what a lot of these are a mature stage. These younger ones over here, like I said, they're probably about 26 to 30 years old. But if you zoom up and look above us here, you'll see some older longleaf pine. Now, these wouldn't be considered old growth right now because old growth can be about over 150, 200 plus years old. These trees are not that old, but they're heading towards that way. And if you look at the other trees around and then zoom in right next to you, you have a nice one that shows you the nice kind of reddish bark, very flaky. And when they're in this stage, really the longleaf has been adapted to deal with fire and different conditions. And so fire happens naturally. A lot of times it's by lightning strike. And so you'll see that this tree over time through its grass stage up through its mature stage and old growth really protects itself. And one of the things is its bark. So this bark, it's flaky. So if a fire comes through, it just kind of flakes off and burns off. And then it also protects the cambium layer that's in here, so it grows nicely to protect that soft layer where all the nutrients and foundation of your tree is. So the bark is made specifically to deal with those adaptations towards fire. Wonderful. This is really a great area. It shows a lot of growth. When you have a lot of trees in different stages, that tells you it's a healthy longleaf forest area. So this is really an exciting location. I'm so glad you guys are joining me today to witness this, because a lot of folks, like I said, don't get to see these longleafs like they did many, many years ago. Let's head down a little bit further, and I know there's another area I would love to show you that talks a little bit more about how we manage for longleafs and what we're doing to protect them and to encourage them. So let's head back to the wagon. This is another wonderful area that we need to stop and check out. So follow me as we exit the wagon one last time. And as we were driving by, I saw this little guy over here. Maybe it's quiz time. Do you remember what stage this is for a longleaf pine? Has a new candle, it's growing up there. If you guessed bottle brush, you are correct. Nice job. Well, I wanted to stop here because this is a picture perfect area of what we would love to see longleaf pine stands looking like. And so when you scan the area here, you'll see some grasses, some little bit of brush, but you'll see nice spacing between our longleaf pines. Now, longleaf pines, they're slow growing trees, slower than your loblolly and your sweet gums. And those are typically the trees when there's a cleared area that they're the first to come in. And so to help our longleaf pines, we do help to manage them by prescribed fires. And so as I might have mentioned earlier, you know, fires happen naturally in nature. A lot of times they're caused by just lightning. And so over time, when there's not fire available or introduced to a forest ecosystem, you do need to manage by prescribed burning. And so if you look here at the bottom of our trees here, you'll see this is called a scorch height. When a fire has come through, you can see how high the flames have gotten on our longleaf pines. You see they're not all the way up to our tree here, so it's not climbing and disrupting the stage of our longleaf here. And these are mature longleafs, but you can just look at all the scorch marks on the forest here. So a fire has come through here multiple times, and we try with this 60 acres to burn 30 acres each year. That doesn't always happen due to weather conditions. And so areas like this might be where we can do a smaller burn, maybe an acre or two burn, to help continue this wonderful scenery here that you see with an open landscape. So in comparison, when you're looking at this side, and then if you look just over there, you'll see how there's matting of lots of vegetation, lots of sweet gums, different types of trees in there, shrubs. It's really thick in there. And that's what this area used to look like. And by helping to use managed, prescribed, and controlled burns, you can provide that savanna-like habitat that you see over here. And so, even if we don't use fire to help manage a longleaf, you can use thinning. So thinning is basically going from a longleaf and trying to remove large vegetation at least 6 feet from your longleaf pines. And so we have come in manually in some areas and remove vegetation 6 feet, that diameter, around our longleaves. So there's just a couple of ways to manage for that. If you look, there's some over here, but mostly, let's kind of walk over here. Longleaf pines are really straight growing trees, and so as they grow older, they do shed off the dead branches. But you'll see some really funky looking trees. They look kind of crazy. They're kind of bent and they're shaped differently. There's a few back there. So it really kind of shows us that it may not be a healthy tree if you see longleafs that are looking like that, because they are straight growing trees. What probably happened looking at this area is that when these trees were younger, an ice storm or heavy winds knocked them over or bent them over, and they just didn't recover over the growing time to get back to that straight look of a trunk that you see with your regular longleaf pines. So that's kind of a neat thing to look at, the history of the area. If you just see some trees looking kind of mangled like that, you can take some guesses on what might have happened here years ago. All right. So you can see some of our differences between our landscape here and the landscape that we want to discourage. And you can see that using management techniques can help really encourage the growth of your longleafs. What's that? Excuse me one moment, my phone is vibrating. I got a call. Wake County Parks, this is Christina. How can I help you? Oh, really? Another longleaf pine stand? All right, I am on a tour right now, but I will get there as soon as possible. Thank you for calling me. All right, have a good one. Take care. Folks, another area identified with longleaf pines. So I'm going to have to cut our exploration short. Let's get back on the wagon, because whenever I can help explore a longleaf pine area and help encourage growth, I'm going to get there. So follow me back on. Let's get going. Thank you all for joining us today in our longleaf exploration. We really did a lot. We learned about the life stages of the longleaf. We learned about how they grow and enhance their growing capabilities through prescribed burning. And then we also learned a little bit about the importance of them with different wildlife that live in their ecosystem. And so whenever there's an opportunity to plant longleaf, plant longleaf. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.